When it comes to large three-row SUVs, Volkswagen really did it right with American families when they introduced the Atlas nameplate to the States back in 2017. Remember, this vehicle was built off of a stretched MQB architecture directly for American families, built, of course, in America as well. Now, over the years, we've seen the three-row family SUV segment change and grow, of course, with new models, which is why Volkswagen is introducing a very thoroughly revised version of the Atlas for 2024. And while this vehicle is short of a full redesign, it's got an all-new powertrain, it's got an all-new interior, it's got a revised look, and it has some new tech features and a lot of standard equipment to make people think twice before going to your local Honda, Toyota, or even Mazda showroom. So I already had a chance to drive this vehicle out in New York about 2 months ago. However, this week, Volkswagen has loaned me this fully loaded Aurora Red SEL Premium with the R-Line Sport Package. We're gonna live with the Atlas for a full week. We're gonna put it through our usual battery of testing. At the end of this video, we're gonna find out, has Volkswagen managed to create an updated Atlas to keep this vehicle fresh among new competition? Stay tuned to find out. So before we start talking about the updated styling for 2024, I thought I'd show you guys what's underneath the hood. Now, unlike some competitors that offer multiple different engine options, Volkswagen decided to simplify it this year by dropping both the old 2-liter turbo and the VR6 and replacing it with one engine, a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder that makes more power and more torque. Now, you might be surprised to see that a big vehicle like this only has a 4-cylinder engine, but a lot of competitors also only make do with a 4-cylinder with a big turbo strap to it. This is a good engine. It's essentially the company's latest version of their EA888 4th generation 2-liter turbo direct injection 4-cylinder. Audi essentially uses a version of this engine, and it makes 269 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. That's nearly 30-ish more versus the old 2-liter turbo 4, and this has, while it has less horsepower than the V6, it has more torque than that VR6. I'm sorry, it's called a VR6. Now, the secret, of course, is updated internals. This has a new, larger turbocharger that stuffs it with 34.8 psi of boost pressure. Nearly 35 pounds of boost pressure is a lot, but that's why this engine makes the kind of power that it does. It all goes out through a revised 8-speed torque converter automatic transmission, so no dual clutch, but this transmission should improve, of course, the acceleration. The fuel efficiency has been improved to up to 19 city, 25 highway on this particular trim with the big 21-inch wheels. It should do up to 27 mpg if you guys go for a different trim with smaller wheels, or if you guys go for a front drive model, front wheel drive, or 4Motion all-wheel drive is going to be optional for about $2,000. It's standard on the SEL and up trim levels. Volkswagen says it's improved the 0 to 60 performance to the mid 7-second range. We got 7.8 in our first test. We'll see what we can do out here back home now that it's not 100 degrees outside like it was when we first tested this vehicle. They've also improved the towing capacity up to 5,000 pounds with this 4-cylinder. It used to be about 2,000 pounds with the old 4-cylinder. The old VR6 could do 5,000, so now there's no compromises there. As this vehicle sits, it weighs in at just over 4,600 pounds, and this vehicle also has a top speed of around 117 miles an hour. But let's go ahead and close up this hood, which, as you can see, the hood is all new, and talk about the revised styling. Now, I actually was a fan of the pre-refreshed Atlas's design. They also refreshed it in 2021, which I liked. I just love how Volkswagen gave this car kind of a boxy, masculine appearance to it, and it's kind of carried over here, although some people have said this looks like a Ford Expedition, but again, that's not a bad thing. This is a handsome-looking car, especially when you guys go for the SEL with the R-Line appearance package, which is a sport look, which we'll talk about in a second. You can see all Atlas models come standard with full LED headlights. The SEL trim comes with the Volkswagen IQ Light, which has adaptive swiveling headlights, a premium design with an LED daytime running light, LED turn signals. There's also an LED light bar that connects the two headlights together, and you can see their Volkswagen logo here is illuminated, which looks really cool at night. There's also an R logo here. And you also kind of get a blacked out grille with some chrome along the outer edges. The non-R lines will have more chrome in the actual vertical slats. Down here, you can see there's more of a sculpted front fascia with some blacked out accents, some chrome that goes along here, some piano black trim or some gloss black trim as well. And overall, let me know what you guys think of the refresh. I think it looks really handsome, especially in this Aurora Red color. It's a $400 upcharge. This is the only bright color that you can get on the 3-row Atlas. If you guys want their beautiful Kingfisher blue, they do offer that on the Atlas Cross Sport, which is a 2-row version. Now, moving around the side profile, the dimensions haven't changed. This has a 117.9-inch wheelbase. It has an overall length of just over 200 inches long. It's on the bigger end of the segment, but not quite as big as the new Chevy Traverse or GMC Acadia or the Toyota Grand Highlander. The Mazda CX-90 is also a smidge longer, but its wheelbase is pretty long for the class. You can see in terms of the wheels, Volkswagen offers a choice of an 18 to a 20 or these 21-inch wheels, which look phenomenal. I love the two-tone look with the machine in gloss black. You can see you have a 13.4-inch rotor at the front, a 12.2-inch rotor at the back, and you also have these fat 265/45 R21-inch tires. These are the biggest wheels that you can get on the Atlas, and you only can get it on this trim level. You have a four-wheel independent suspension. However, no adaptive dampers. I'm surprised to see Volkswagen didn't throw that in. You can get that feature on something like a Golf R or a GTI. It's an SUV, so you have these unpainted fender wheel arch trim. You have an R-Line badge here to show that this is the sportier trim. Mirrors are electrically folding. Surprised these aren't black. You have integrated turn signal mirrors. I do like how Volkswagen also throws in traditional roof rails with the aluminum look. You have a pano roof standard on this trim as well, which is a big roof that lets in a lot of light. And then backing up and looking at the profile, love the boxy design in this vehicle. The chrome trim, I wish that VW would offer a package to black it out. I suspect they're going to at some point, perhaps maybe for the next model year as a small little update. But looking at the rear of the vehicle, you can see it looks pretty similar again to the pre-refresh model, but there is an update to the tail lights. You can see it's a full LED design. It has the full light bar that connects the two taillights together. This Volkswagen logo also lights up red. You'll get these illuminated logos when you go for the SE with tech packaging up. You can see there's an SEL badge there, a 4Motion badge here, and then the R-Line trim includes a more sculpted rear bumper diffuser along with those fake quad outlet exhaust. The actual muffler is just underneath the bumper, so I don't like how it's fake, but at least it looks good. The tow package is also included. You can see this vehicle, as I mentioned earlier, will tow a maximum of 5,000 pounds. Now, looking at the cargo area, if you guys want a power liftgate, you have to go with the SE with tech packaging up, which is, again, the trim that most, I feel like, people are going to be satisfied with. And then in terms of cargo capacity, it hasn't changed from the pre-refresh model. This is on the bigger end of the class at 20.6 cubic feet with the third row seat up. Remember, a third row is standard on this model. The Atlas Crossport is a two-row only. If you lift this up, you can see there's some underfloor storage. There's a jack. There is a spare tire. Some storage, of course, to the side of the vehicle if you want to fold down the third row. That expands the cargo to around 55 cubic feet of space, which is good. Again, if you fold down everything, Volkswagen says you get a maximum of 96 cubic feet, which is on the top end. The Toyota Grand Highlander hybrid, or the Toyota Grand Highlander, only offers more at around 98 cubic feet. We don't have the final specs of the new Traverse and Acadia, but again, in terms of cargo capacity, the big Atlas definitely has one of the biggest in the segment. So design-wise, the exterior of the 2024 Volkswagen Atlas doesn't look that much different from the pre-refresh model. However, VW has made extensive changes to the interior as well. Before we get inside, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see this is the newer fob that Volkswagen first introduced on the all-electric ID.4. I like the way this fob looks and feels. It feels heavy, it feels substantial, it feels high quality. The piano black does get a lot of scratches on it, but it looks nice. You also have your usual buttons here for lock, power liftgate, unlock, panic, and then there's also remote start on the fob. You get the remote start when you go for the SE with tech package and up. You have access to this vehicle's Volkswagen Connected Services app. You should be able to also access it from your smartphone as well. Now you can see traditional door handles here. If you lock the door here, you can just touch that button. That will lock the door. It'll also fold the mirrors for you. The vehicle also has a smart auto unlock function. So if I have it turned on, if I have the key fob on me, as I approach the vehicle, that'll also unlock the door for you as well. I wasn't standing far away from it for it to actually do it right now as I'm filming this. But taking a look at the interior, you can see my tester has a wonderful color combination with the Aurora Red Metallic with the Shetland Beige Vienna full leather interior with the diamond stitching. This is definitely a more premium looking seat. The seats are heated and ventilated, but you don't have to go for the high trim to get the heated and ventilated seats. It's standard even on the base $38,000 SE model. What you do get when you go for the SEL and up are the 10-way power or 8-way power seats with the 2-way lumbar, and you also get 3-person memory. The diamond quilting, however, the full Vienna leather, that's only included on this SEL Premium. You can see you have this door panel here with some nicer materials versus the pre-refresh model. You have a soft touch injection molded plastic, aluminum accented door handle here. This wood looks like a burl walnut, but it's actually a fake wood, but it looks real. It just doesn't feel real when you touch it. You have the Harman Kardon stereo, which is only included on this upper trim. Padded armrest over here with a nice little storage compartment and grab handle. You have more storage down here. It's hard touch plastic here, but again, I love the two-tone Shetland beige with the black and the wood. It looks good with the red exterior color. Now, in terms of ground clearance and stepping inside, this has 6.3 inches of ground clearance, which is pretty low, but you do have a nice, easy step-in height. I believe the Peak Edition model will have an extra inch of ground clearance. That'll be the more off-road oriented version of the Atlas. For overlanding, as I get in and shut the door has a nice solid sounding thunk. Remember, this is built on the same MQB architecture as a Volkswagen Golf. Now, starting the vehicle up, the start-stop button is this square button here on the center console that's right by the park button, which is also the same shape. I don't love this because there are times where I was accidentally hitting the start-stop button when I wanted to put it in park. So I wish that Volkswagen kind of differentiated a little bit, but once you start it up, it has a traditional starter noise, no hybrid or mild hybrid technology. They could have at least done a mild hybrid, but I guess VW saves that for Audi. But you can see here, looking at this interior, it does make a great first impression. The beauty about it is every Atlas, even the base version, comes with the large 12-inch digital display or multi-touch display, and then you also have a 10.3-inch display here for the instrument panel. So it's great that VW is including this tech as standard on the base trim as well. The previous pre-refresh model had a maximum diameter of 8 inches, so this is a 4-inch increase, which definitely looks good. It has that tablet style look. Unfortunately, it is running the latest Volkswagen software, where at times it is slow and laggy, and it also lacks a lot of traditional knobs and buttons. This instead has touch-sensitive buttons here for the climate, which are still not illuminated. You have a touch-sensitive control here for the audio, which I don't love, but thankfully, at least the steering wheel, you can see, has traditional actual buttons, hard buttons, as opposed to a touch-sensitive panel. You have paddles on the wheel to control the 8-speed auto. The steering wheel itself has a manual tilt and telescoping adjustment with a good amount of adjustability and range, which is nice. You have a horn that sounds good. It doesn't sound puny like on some competing vehicles. And you can see here, heads-up display is included on the SEL trims and up. You have a padded upper portion of the dash, more of that fake wood, piano black plastic here, stitching down here with some faux leather material. You have these vents, which have been redesigned. The entire dash has honestly been redesigned, which is nice. You have a wireless phone charging pad here. And then if you want to go back to the Volkswagen display here, you can see there's a dedicated home button. You can also adjust the ambient lighting in this car, which this car offers multiple colors of ambient lighting, and it looks great at night. And I like how Volkswagen also allows you to change the color of this, where it matches the instrument panel and the background of the infotainment system to the ambient lighting. So it's kind of a nice feature to have. You get it on the SEL trims and up. I also love the fact that this car has kind of like a touch sensitive or a proximity sensor, where you can actually just kind of swipe your hand this way, and it allows you to go between the different menus, which I think is a really cool feature. It'll impress your guests for sure. When I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your full 360 camera with parking sensors front and rear. It also has an automatic parallel parking feature that's included with this SEL Premium trim only if you want the full 360 camera. There's also embedded GPS, which the GPS also works fine. It doesn't have the same kind of resolution or clarity or wow factor as Audi Google Earth display, but again, it's pretty good. But most of you are probably going to end up using the CarPlay anyways. So kind of just keep that in mind. But this is a huge improvement over the previous generation. What I don't like, however, are the climate controls that are in the screen. So when I want to adjust the climate, I have to push that first to go into here or turn on the heated and ventilated seats. It takes forever sometimes for it to start up, which is a pet peeve of mine. I would prefer it to be much faster responding, or at least give me a hard button to access it like in some competitors. Down here you can see you can access the climate here by just pushing that little touch sensitive button. You can access the driver assist there. You can change your drive mode selector, which there are 6 different drive modes. And you also have a custom mode, a snow, and an off-road setting. Again, it's all embedded into the actual screen. Your wireless phone charging pad is here. A nice lid that closes. You have 2 USB charging ports here. You also have a USB up here for a dash cam, which is a great little feature to have. A lot of more manufacturers need to do that. The center console has been redesigned to where you have this little shifter that reminds me of the Volkswagen Golf R and GTI. It's pretty simple. You just kind of kick it back to go to drive or sport, kick it forward to go to reverse, and then push the P to go to park. But again, it's too close to the start-stop button. Electronic parking brake, and then you have a new center console area here where you have additional storage underneath here, which is great. The previous generation didn't have that. Padded center console here. Open this up, you can see another USB, decent-sized center console storage area, which is nice. The seats are very comfortable and supportive. I love the premium Vienna leather. The heated and cooled seat function works well. The Harman Kardon sound system sounds good as well. If you're an audiophile, you're going to want to go for this trim. Open up the glove box, you can see it's a bin style. It's damped but not lined with felt. It offers a good amount of storage. The visibility in here is also good. You have an auto dimming rear view mirror along with LED map lighting, which again is touch sensitive. You have a big panoramic roof, which comes with an actual sunshade, and this also opens up over the 2 front seats. So again, those are all very nice features to have. So overall, the interior feels upscale, feels much more modern. Aside from the software, which needs a little bit of work, it feels premium now at least, and it also gives you good visibility and comfortable seats, and most families, I believe, are going to be happy with what they find here in the new Atlas. Now hopping into the back seat of the 3-row Atlas, this is where families are again going to be very impressed because Volkswagen has some of the biggest interior volumes in the segment. You can see my tester has the bench seat, which it's one of the few vehicles in the segment where you can get a top trim with a bench seat. You can get captain's chairs for an extra $700, but that'll lower the seating capacity to 6 because the 3rd row doesn't seat 3 across like on some competitors. You can see the backseat materials here are still soft touch plastic, more of that faux wood, padded center or padded armrest down here, hard touch plastic here, but with a lot of additional storage. You also have these manual sunshades. That's included when you guys go for the SE with tech packaging up. And then you can see here these seats, they do have a recline function, but once I get in, you have a little over 38.5 inches of legroom back here, which is actually a good amount, although it's not the 40 inches that you find in some competitors, but you can see this is where I have the seat to drive. There's tons of space, tons of foot space for me. The floor is not completely flat, but the vehicle is wide enough to accommodate there across. You can also slide this seat forward and back by pulling on this little lever here. You can see you can slide it all the way forward and it's going to really intrude on the legroom, but this is how you get more space into the 3rd row, which is big, but not the biggest. You can see you have rear seat air vents. You have your own set of climate control, so it's triple zone climate control. You have heated rear seats back here, although some competitors offer cooled seats. VW sadly does not offer cooled seats. You have a power outlet here, 2 more USB charging ports. You have storage cubbies or storage pockets in the actual seat backs themselves. And then you have here an armrest that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders. Remember, you can get captain's chairs, but it'll limit the seating capacity to 6. But let's go ahead and hop into the 3rd row of this vehicle, which with the captain's chairs, I could slide in through the middle, but obviously I can't with this model here. But slide the seat forward there. You can see when you pull that lever, it practically cantilevers the whole seat forward, which is nice. But once I get back here, first of all, that's with the seat all the way back. Let me show you guys what the space is like with the seat all the way back. So with it all the way back, my 5'7" frame, basically my knees hit the back of the seat. But at least in terms of headroom space, it has a good amount of space. The vehicle, again, could be wide enough to sit 3 across, but it doesn't. You have 2 USB-C charging ports here, some rear seat air vents, same thing over here, but no USBs. You have cup holders and a little bit of storage here. Remember, so if you want to fit adults back here, you have to ask this 2nd row passenger to slide their seat forward a little bit to give you more space. Without doing that, you're a little bit limited back here to shorter drives, but overall, compared to the competitors, the Atlas's 3rd row is class competitive. It's average, but if you want more space, the Telluride and Palisade offers more space, and I believe the Toyota Grand Highlander also offers more space. So here we are back in the fully revised 2024 Volkswagen Atlas. I had a chance to drive this vehicle out in New York for about 2 months ago, and I was pretty impressed with the overall change that VW has made. Remember, this car is technically just a heavy refresh. It's the 2nd refresh, but it's a more extensive one versus back in 2021. And it's primarily centered around the interior with its tech, but it also got a new engine. This is the new 4th generation of Volkswagen's EA888 2-liter turbo. It has a lot of new updates to it, including a larger turbocharger that pumps nearly 35 pounds of boost pressure. I wasn't expecting that, which is significant, which is why it's also making nearly 270 horsepower in this vehicle, 273 pound-feet of torque. It's a fairly good powertrain, especially considering this is the only powertrain available and it has an 8-speed auto. Now, when I last 0 to 60 tested this vehicle, it was very, very hot. I had Rob in the car. Let's see what we can get back here on our usual stretch. I have the car in sport mode, stability's in sport mode as well, transmission's in sport. All right, 0 to 60 in 7.09 seconds, so 7.1. That is quite a bit faster, actually, versus the 7.8 that I got when I first tested this vehicle. Keep in mind, I never 0 to 60 tested the old VR6, but this powertrain definitely has a much more enthusiastic, peppy feel to it. The old 2-liter turbo was down like 30-ish horsepower compared to this, and this has technically a little bit less horsepower than the old 6-cylinder, but it does have more torque, and it has a more responsive 8-speed automatic transmission. VW has really addressed the sluggishness, the laziness that you felt with the pre-refresh model, and I think that's really going to make a huge improvement for those of you who are coming from the previous generation or the previous refresh. Let's just try it here. I'm not going to brake torque it this time. 7.7 here, and this is with it more going slightly uphill without brake torquing it. So that's probably, you know, I'd say in the real world, you're gonna be expecting a mid 7-second time, 7.5 seconds, which is actually what VW claims for this vehicle, which I think is perfectly acceptable. This is not the quickest SUV in the segment, but that's not the point of vehicles like this. If you want the speed king, you're gonna be looking at the Mazda CX-90, the Toyota Grand Highlander Hybrid Max that has more power. I haven't had a chance to really test out the turbo engine Grand Highlander or the regular hybrid, just the Hybrid Max. I've driven those briefly, but we did a full review on the Hybrid Max when I had one for a week back home on this same stretch of road. So Volkswagen has clearly a good powertrain on their hand for, you know, the base engine. It would be nice if VW would offer something like an electrified option. I also would have loved to see them put the 300 horsepower version from the Golf R and the Arteon into this car, but we'll take more power where we can get it. But let's go ahead and take it out of the sport mode here and kind of just drive the vehicle normally. Now, Volkswagen says they've updated the suspension tuning, the steering a little bit, and whereas the old Atlas felt like a big, heavy, lazy American car, this model still doesn't feel like a Golf GTI, you know, for families, but it definitely has a more competent feel to it. It's not as sporty as the Mazda CX-90, but it feels pretty much on par with the Toyota Grand Highlander, with a Honda Pilot, a Nissan Pathfinder, for example. The Hyundai Palisade and Kia Telluride also come to mind. Those vehicles just kind of feel big, they feel soft, they feel squishy, but they also give you the power that you're looking, or the ride quality that you're looking for. People in this class, they're just looking for a family car. And of course, this model here comes standard with the 4Motion all-wheel drive. I do notice the 8-speed, when it's not in its sport setting here, it can be a little bit hesitant to downshift and give me a lower gear, which I would have really liked to see it be a little bit more responsive. It's better versus the pre-refresh model, but it still has a little bit of room for improvement. The sound of this engine also is different. It's an augmented fake sound, which I don't know if I love, but at least it's something versus absolutely nothing and sounding like a vacuum cleaner, for example. Let's try it here one more time for consistency's sakes. Again, 7.09, so very, very consistent time, but it's gonna be about a half a second slower than some of the competition, but that doesn't really matter. I just like to do it for demonstration purposes so you guys can see it in the real world and see how it compares on paper when you're looking at numbers. But in terms of just overall driving this vehicle out on roads, it feels easy to drive. This vehicle doesn't feel quite as big, and I'm not sure how Volkswagen did that. They've adjusted something here with the steering response, the suspension perhaps, but it's still the same size vehicle. It never lets you forget that it is, hey, I actually got the back tire to spin out there. That was unexpected. I wasn't expecting it to do that. I actually got the rear to kind of step out a smidge because of the 4Motion all-wheel drive, although it doesn't have the same kind of all-wheel drive system as a Golf R, but I have the stability control in its sports setting, and it lets a little bit of fun kick in before it kind of reins in and clamps down on things to keep you from having a little too much fun. But going around some of these corners here, you feel how soft the suspension is, and the tires start to give up grip. The 21-inch wheels do have some decent grip. They are 265 width tires, so they're pretty wide. But again, it's not gonna feel like a Golf GTI, which I think is a missed opportunity for Volkswagen, but I can see why they did that. This is gonna be more in line with what families want this car to drive like. It has good visibility all around, from the front, from the side, from the rear. No digital camera rearview mirror. Volkswagen doesn't do that still, surprisingly. Would be nice in this car. But the seats are also very comfortable. I love the Vienna Shetland beige interior of my Tester with the diamond quilting and stitching. The heated and cooled seats work really well. I love how they're also standard equipment. There's a ton of standard luxury touches in this car that you wouldn't expecting. It also has a heads-up display that you get with the SEL trim and up. And in terms of the driver assistance tech, their Volkswagen IQ Drive is standard on this car, and it works well. It's about on par with all the other competing mainstream systems. It's not a full hands-free system like you would find in like Ford's Blue Cruise, for example, or GM Super Cruise. We just saw the new Acadia and the new Traverse. That's going to really raise the bar in terms of driver assistance tech because of the Super Cruise features. And in terms of fuel efficiency, this car is rated at 1925. In my week's worth of testing, I averaged a smidge under 22 miles to the gallon in mixed driving. On the highway, it did around 25 exactly, which is actually pretty good. I think in the Grand Highlander Hybrid Max, I got around 24, 25 mpg. Same thing with the Mazda CX-90 plug-in hybrid. When you weren't running it with a full charge on the battery pack, it was doing in the mid 20 to 20, maybe mid to upper 25 or 20 mile per gallon mark, which is fine. This vehicle has an 18.5 gallon fuel tank. You're looking at around 400 miles of range between fill-ups. Again, perfectly fine. I do like how this car uses regular gas. It doesn't require premium or even for premium for recommended for performance, which is impressive considering it has 35 pounds of boost pressure going into that engine. But overall, it's a very satisfying refresh. I think Volkswagen has done a great job at keeping this car fresh, even though it's getting old. It's been on the market since 2017. It's due for a full redesign soon. But if you guys, love the Volkswagen brand, you essentially, have like a GTI or a Passat or something, you need to get into a family car. This is now, I'd say mid-pack. I would probably rank this higher than the Toyota Highlander and the Honda Pilot perhaps, or the Nissan Pathfinder. The Grand Highlander is definitely an option to pick if you guys want the electrified option. That's the only player in town if you guys want a normal hybrid. Mazda also offers the plug-in hybrid CX-90, although the Mazda doesn't have quite as much space as this car, and that's what gives the Volkswagen an edge, as well as the space and just the value of this car. I mean, you could essentially just get a base SE version for $38,000, $40,000 with all-wheel drive. It'll have most of the features that you want, although this model here, the SEL Premium R line, also has a couple of luxury touches that would make you think that you might be driving an Audi. So as most of you guys can figure out, the large three-row family unibody SUV segment is a segment that continues to grow in popularity every year. Every year we seem to see new models or fully redesigned models come out. And when Volkswagen first introduced the Atlas back in 2017, this was a car that Volkswagen direly needed for the US market. Because remember, their SUV portfolio had the Touareg and the Tiguan, which were again too small and too expensive for the US segment. So this vehicle here was important because it was built for Americans in America and priced accordingly with the right amount of interior space. And after spending some time with the revised 2024 model, again, this is not a full redesign, but it almost feels like it is because Volkswagen has altered the driving dynamics. It now handles better. It rides well. Still, however, I'd like to try this vehicle out with the smaller 20-inch wheels because the 21s are a little bit on the firmer side. I would like to see Volkswagen add their adaptive dampers. In terms of the exterior design, it still looks like the old Atlas, but it's again been sharpened. It's a little bit more upscale looking with the LED accented lighting. The interior is really a big upgrade they've made. I like the standard 12-inch display with the 10-inch display for the digital cockpit. I love the seats and the interior space that you get in the second and the third row. While the third row is not the biggest in the segment, it's pretty much on par with the average. It's not on the smaller end, it's not on the bigger end, but it's right in the middle, which I think should do fine for most people. The infotainment system, while I don't love it at times in terms of the software, when you're just using the Apple CarPlay, that's where you can kind of bypass the finicky Volkswagen software. I don't particularly love the touch-sensitive buttons, but I like how Volkswagen at least kept the standard steering wheel with actual buttons as opposed to the touch buttons that you get in like the GTI or the Golf R. The powertrain also is a big improvement. Love the fact that this is now 0 to 60 in the low 7-second range. It gets good fuel efficiency, even though this is not a hybrid. It'll do 400 miles of range. I mean, if Volkswagen was going to improve this vehicle, I would have liked to see them allow it to seat up to 8 people, make it a little bit sportier to drive, which I guess isn't really the point of a vehicle like this, but as an enthusiast, I would like to see them make this car kind of have the soul of a GTI. The engine response has been improved to the point where it almost does, and it's certainly a quicker option, but until Volkswagen offers some kind of electrified option, it is going to make people kind of think twice about looking at this car. But if you are comparing it to some of the V6 offerings, of course, like the Kia Telluride, the Hyundai Palisade, this is going to keep pace with those models, but you should be getting slightly better fuel efficiency because of that additional torque that you get from the engine, and with all the space and all the standard equipment, it certainly makes this car a worthy option. That's where, if you guys are looking to purchase this vehicle, the pricing of the Atlas has also been updated. It starts at around $37,700 for the base SE with front-wheel drive. That sounds a lot until you start looking at the standard equipment list. Remember, I said earlier, heated and ventilated seats are standard equipment. The big 12-inch display, standard equipment. Those features are typically optional on a lot of other vehicles, and you have to go into their highest trim. Now, most of you are probably going to at least add all-wheel drive for $2,000, so you can get into an SE, a base model, for around $40,000. Honestly, that's enough car for most people, but I suspect most of you are going to at least spend an extra $5,000 to go to the SE with a technology package with all-wheel drive. That's going to include things like the power liftgate, the LED lighting on the outside that has that illuminated logo, the parking sensors and whatnot. You're going to want that feature along with the remote start and the hands-free liftgate for about $45 grand. I think that's a good deal deal. This particular one that I'm showing you here is the most expensive Atlas. It starts at $52,000, but again, it's the SEL Premium with the R-Line package. So the R-Line Sport package, which includes the full 360 camera, the Harman Kardon stereo, the heads-up display, for example, the heated second row seats. With the Aurora Red color and destination, my tester here is around $54,200 as tested. I know mid $50,000 range is expensive, but this is still about $5,000 less expensive than fully loaded versions of the Toyota Grand Highlander and the Mazda CX-90, and it's about the same price as the Kia Telluride, the Hyundai Palisade at the top end, and the Honda Pilot and the Nissan Pathfinder. So that's kind of where the segment is at the mid $50,000 range for a fully loaded version, but you can get one of these in the low to mid $40,000 range, well equipped, and the Atlas has some of the best standard equipment list in the segment, which will make it an appealing option for those of you looking to spend not quite as much, but get a lot of features for your money. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2024 Volkswagen Atlas. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.